Good evening, everyone. We'll start the webinar in another 5 to 10 minutes so that we have.
ভাবিকে বলছি আমার সেশন হচ্ছে, কি আনতে বলছিলাম যেন?
We'll be joining in another 5 to 10 minutes. I think we can start now. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for this insightful session on understanding and supporting neurodivergent and twice reception children. My name is Krishna Priya, and I'm your host for the day. At Spot Micro School, we are committed to creating inclusive spaces for children of all abilities to learn, grow, and thrive. It is a school for one, designed for exceptional learners who need challenge, flexibility, and support. With flexible pathways like IGCC and NIOS, Spot empowers teens to learn at their own pace in a way that fits them best. Coming over to the webinar, today we're excited to have with us Shija Sapru, a passionate advocate for neurodiversity and strength based approaches to education. Ms. Shija is certified in twice exceptional education from British Graduate School and is a strong proponent of alternative schooling methods. She is joining us to shed light on how to spot early signs of neurodivergence, choose strength based education options, and build a neuro affirming home environment, particularly in the Indian context. Without further ado, let's welcome Ms. Shija. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you so much for having me. I know they say twice exceptional education, neuro-affirming approaches and all that. I myself, being a parent to two, I kind of started the journey intuitively, not understanding neuro-affirming, not understanding strength-based approaches. I just kind of did it. I saw that it was helpful to them, and I just carried over. I never knew there is a program like Certificate for Twice Exceptional Education till I did it. So that's how my journey began.
All right. So that is what you would say the beginning of this journey, is it?
Yes, very much. So it is more of a parent intuitiveness rather than actually a professional coursework or so. And that's how I kind of started it there. Because when I saw it, every professional kept saying the same thing: keep fixing the child, keep looking at what the child cannot do. And I said, no, but my child can do so and so, my child can do so and so. But it doesn't align with the academic requirements for a school, for societal requirements as such, which I found, why should I not look at the strengths of my child? And that's how I was like, no, if nobody is looking at it, let me have a look at it. Let me try to support him. And that's how I kind of built most of the strengths and interests that he has as of now. And it was not just one interest or two interests. I kind of gave him support in whatever interest that could be, because some of them kept going, some of them kept diversifying. So there were different ways to kind of keep going. But I think following that instinct and just being connected with the child made a whole lot of difference.
So, how would you, in your experience, define neurodivergence, or to someone who may not know these terms of twice exceptional children? How would you maybe simplify it?
So neurodivergence would be anything. It could be giftedness. It could be having a disability in the sense autism, ADHD, or anything of that, or even a learning difference as such, like dyspraxia, dyslexia, and all, or even mental health conditions. So it's a combination of different things. But at the same time, twice exceptionality would be that you have giftedness on one side, and you have disability and or learning difference and or mental health conditions. It's all coming together. It's a combination. That's why we say being twice exceptional is quite complex, because there's so many aspects that you look into. But let me just clarify on what giftedness is first. Everybody thinks giftedness is being a high potential, probably high ability, scoring well, and everything of that sort. But giftedness is much, much more than that. It's kind of a different thinking, perceiving the information very differently. It has almost, most of the time, it doesn't have much to do with high performance. It is more into, I would say high performance is more into high ability. And sometimes they don't go hand in hand. And that's something that many people are not aware of. People think that being gifted means you need to score the most in everything in the class. You should be the best student, the ideal student across, but that's not the case. And when you have these challenges on the other side through a disability or learning difference, your curve or everything kinds of blows up the place, because you're skills would be way high there and your challenges would be way below that. So how much ever you keep supporting the child, there's a very less chance to kind of meet. Rather, we kind of keep supporting them as and when possible. And supporting just the challenges is not going to be helpful because for them, everything valued is what they like doing.
So I want to take this opportunity and I want to ask all of our participants here if you can keep your videos on and you have any inquiries or any questions that you want to ask her, you can use this floor to do so. But I do recommend everyone to keep their videos on so we can make this a much more interactive session. There's anyone with any particular topic that
அப்புறம் நான் ரெடி ஆயிட்டேன். அப்புறம் நீ பண்ண உடனே ஜஸ்ட்
we have more people joining in even now.
Hey, what happened? Come in.
You
Is there anyone who wants to? Yes.
Hi, my name is Aruna, and my son is presently 9 years old. So when he was around 3 or 4, we kind of sensed that something felt different about him. At that point in time, I was also really early in the journey and didn't have a vocabulary. And my first instinct was, of course, how to normalize this whole thing. And then, we kind of figured we met different people. Some people said it was sensory processing challenges. Some others said it was Asperger's. Some others said it was.
Go to take
Some others said it was, on the spectrum. So I just wanted to check in terms of knowing exactly what the label is. How important is this in your experience? And at what point, I mean, and now, of course, at 9, we also realized that, there is a bit of ADHD, impulsivity, but there is also, giftedness in terms of intelligence, in terms of IQ, in terms of him wanting to do different things, having specific interests. So just wanted to check, is this identification of the type of neurodivergence important? And how
To
does
me,
one
yes.
get around that? Yeah.
To me, yes.
Okay.
There are several opinions to it. Some say we don't require the labels, we just go with the flow. But for me, as a parent, it was the most empowering thing that I could have, having those labels in place. Having twice exceptionality is not an easy thing because not many psychologists kind of give you that answer. But having those learning differences in place, how does he process information? Is there any challenge in processing the information in front of him? Because academics require visual processing and auditory processing, and that's huge. But if you have a challenge in it, you are not going to do academically well. Even the understanding that, yes, comprehension is weak, having lack of visual imagery, this is all connected to each kind of diagnosis or so. And it is super helpful to have them because at least end of the day, I can go back and sit and read and find it out. Whereas an appointment with a psychologist or any therapist as such would be max 45 minutes, an hour or so, where I will not be able to gather all this information and learn by myself. So for me, it was very, very helpful in the journey. But not that I had all the diagnoses in one go. We have been receiving diagnosis till, I think, till he was around 10, 11 years. because certain things can't be tested at a certain age. It takes time. And they need to be responsive for the kind of questions. Even when I say that, each of these assessments have got their own limitations too. So whatever little information we could gather from these assessments makes a huge difference.
See, I have a question.
Thank
My
you.
journey is very similar to what Aruna said, but my daughter is now big. She's 14. So we started with what it is. Is it LD? We started in a different way. She was always behind core learning. I'm talking about academics. That means, reading, writing part. But she was always advanced communicator, had a good eye contact. So people just said maybe I'm, worrying mom because I have an elder one. So I was obviously comparing. But that journey took me to the LD journey for a long time. We were in this, whether it's dyslexia, whether it is just a plain LD. We spent lots of time. Then sensory issue also in between cropped up. I went to so many occupation therapists. All that settled down by 7th grade, but she was still behind. And suddenly, till third, we were still seeing she was lacking, especially math. So we were thinking maybe dyscalculia. And the COVID happened. We went to psychologist appointment. They said she might be high IQ. She turned out to be high IQ when she was 10. She picked up in school. Now she's 14 with a very gifted IQ. Now she is with. She is ADHD diagnosed, maybe on the spectrum now. So, but still for us, the biggest issue is, how to channelize this IQ, though we had so much of journey, where we started with LD and now my child who's 14 is the level of 20, in terms of her English and maths. But definitely she has some auditory processing as of now. So she's finding difficult in a mainstream school, though she's in a mainstream school. So now how do I channelize? How do I help her identify, what is her gift? Though her score knows, I know she's good in vocabulary. Her maths and English are equally strong, though her results may not show. I mean, especially math results don't show. So how do I channelize and how do I figure out what is her, strength? She's definitely not those artist type, dance type. It has to be somewhere in academic or, I don't know, something related to, knowledge. I don't know what it is.
When we say giftedness, when we say IQ, everybody coincides with every academic subject that is readily
Correct.
available in the schools. But that's not all that is.
Correct.
Because many of their interests would not be even covered up in school. For example, if a child likes something in astronomy, the child will be asked to wait till grade 12 and after that you move into astronomy. Until those years, they have no chance in looking at that interest of theirs because it just doesn't cover up in school. The school would say you need to go by this levels and then you can reach astronomy. So when we keep forcing children to kind of look into all those grade level requirements, you are never able to find out what those interests are in the first place. If a child has IQ, doesn't mean that they should be interested in core academics, doesn't mean that they should be interested in sports, arts, or music, or whatever.
Yeah.
So that's completely different.
So how do we navigate her? So that's where my challenge
That is my next question to you. What does she like to do?
I mean, as of now, only thing which I see that she likes is, getting into lots of, I wouldn't say news, but analyzing lots of people, asking, questions which can put you on tough spot. I mean, you have no answer. Though she knows good science, she can talk on science. Mostly she likes biology, but she's more logical. Her perceptual reasoning is nearly 150. So that's in her WIS score. So she's very high in that.
You said now she likes biology. How far has she gone into biology?
No, but
Has
she
she
doesn't.
explored? Yeah, come on.
So
Go,
she
go,
doesn't
go
want
ahead.
to go deeper. She doesn't want to go deeper. She doesn't want to handle any demands. As of now, her current interest is just watch lots of social media. Now, recent India-Pakistan attack, she's tracking, she understands. And then she will have, religion in understanding in religion. She will go here and there. So I can't channelize her energy.
That is giftedness.
Yeah.
That is in core giftedness. You connected the child, connecting the dots across different kind of areas is not something that conventionally people would do. Conventionally, if I say, okay, you're interested in biology, can we see what next can we go into? That's all that we would do. But if we could connect the dots, I'll tell you an example here. My child was interested in cars. This is like around 2 years of age. Now, when he was interested in cars, the doctor said, take away all the cars. He's way too interested in the cars. Take away whatever has got wheels, take it away. But when I saw that I could increase the vocabulary through cars, I kind of took him to the garage here, parking floors, wherever you can see all these cars and all that. I built up his vocabulary that way. Now, then people said, why are you teaching him all these car names? There's no purpose to it. But then I saw that he was very happy to learn more about the cars. I found out there were TV channels based on each car. There was Mercedes-Benz, Porsche, Audi channels. He understood what they were trying to explain based on different features. Now, what does that mean? He's going into the physics of it. He's going into the science behind the cars. He is able to understand those features. He was able to compare those features among different brands of the vehicles. He was able to compare why they came up with a design model. So that is again designing part of the car. It's not just one aspect of it. So that's the way we diversify on one particular topic. The more and more she keeps talking, the more and more she is exposing herself to social media, the more and more she is exposing to different topics that she's connecting, she's building it up there. Then my son started talking about these cars. He would go to the history of cars. Now that's history part. That is not science. He goes to the history of the cars. He tells you why those models were created in the first place. What was the connection of each of those? Which part of the year was it? Did some other event happen during the same year while this car was being produced? He connected the history with the science of cars. Then it goes. So I'm saying that's the way they connect. That's the way they build up. So the more that we can give them, the more they get connections over. Now, you shouldn't be pointing them to one particular thing. The more the interest, the better it is, because then probably by the end of school, by high school, they have more options to choose from. If we keep limiting now, the number of choices that they would probably get also get limited. Because my son, now at this point, he connected 2 of the cars to snakes. So he is going to herpetology there and then connecting it to science. So that's all about snakes and then cars together. They're 2 diverse topics, but he's bringing them together because of his interest. So doesn't mean that he's going to be an automobile engineer. Doesn't mean he's going to be somebody as a car or something of that sort. I have no idea if he's going to take herpetology and figuring about all science but my job as a parent is to give him as many choices as possible in different ways. Now, expanding this or diversifying this is the most crucial aspect. Second thing is that building those long-term skills so that she could, build it up for colleges, because you need to write, you need to email, you need to speak, you need to present yourself on stage. Those are the skills that I would focus to building on this. Does that make any
Thank you.
sense?
Thank you so much.
Okay. So yeah, I also, one question that I have is, I also have like multiple reports with multiple diagnoses, as Aruna mentioned, right? Like I have one report that says ADHD, one report that say on the spectrum, one that says social emotional skills deficit. Yeah, there is a high IQ on that same WISC score. But the other same thing, like I don't know whether this diagnosis is not given in India, like gifted and twice exceptional. This is what we have come to know, or I think everyone here in this audience, maybe what's their experience, like from the reading the books, reading the material, attending the webinars like this. Oh, there's a term called gifted. There's a term called twice exceptional. Oh, this matches with. But I don't have any report, any diagnosis, anything that says this. Is this true? Is this like this? Like, how do we ourselves say that it's gifted and twice exceptional?
No. Giftedness is often from a psychologist who does the neuropsych evaluation and testing. They would come up with the giftedness scoring. But again, let me tell you that even if you do that, there's you can measure the giftedness to a limit. You cannot go beyond that. But there is a certain understanding that you get from the IQ testing for sure. But twice exceptionality is not a diagnosis. It's only when these two come together, you call the individual a twice exceptional individual. So it's not a diagnosis.
And yeah, okay. In India, like, do they use this label? Do they give this label gifted? Like, I haven't seen that in the reports. It doesn't say that. It says yes, high IQ, very high IQ. I don't know, superior high IQ, whatever is that classification.
They
What
should be
is there?
giving it. I am not very sure
Okay.
about that. But then because high IQ means, that means it is gifted. Now, I don't know why they don't use this word specifically as gifted,
Okay.
but high IQ is reflecting giftedness.
Okay, and in addition to that, right, as the topic that we were discussing earlier, yeah, I also see that interest and strength is different. For my son also, as his IQ score says, he has a higher strength in maths and logical reasoning, very high strength in math. Like, it's very easy for him to grasp math, understand math, but he's not interested in math. Like, I tried to put him in some advanced math course or anything related to math. He has that strength, but he's not interested in that. Yes, he's interested in electronics, robotics, computer programming. I'm trying to pursue and trying to go deep into that. But yes, strength and interest he's like very strongly, okay, no math course, bare minimum. He knows he's much higher than whatever his regular class can do. So yeah, I don't know, like, I don't force much.
It is often
And
seen, so don't feel bad about it. You
Hmm.
did try, so that's perfectly fine. The point is, I've also seen at home, I have seen with other kids also, that there's a balance in how much we push. Because when they do it very, what do you say, out of interest, it makes it more meaningful to them.
Yeah.
When we are trying to push them, it is more that they have to meet adult expectations, which doesn't go together always, because they want to be empowered themselves. And that's where most of the time you would see self-learning and all that. But ideally, if they could get a mentor who would be like meeting them where they are, not too many pushing forward, meeting any kind of curriculums or any expectations, it becomes much easier to explore it out of interest. It is just like how we put kids for music sessions and instantly they start preparing for all the exams and music lessons and this and that and that. And the whole passion for music just dies down because of that expectation of meeting those exams or everything else. So that's the same way. If the child is interested in math, let them explore the math in something that is out of interest to them, rather than moving across through a curriculum or any set of, what do you say, leveled math or so. Because there are some kids who like to do geometry. They would like to do origami in geometry. I mean, they would explore all those. They might not even like algebra in the math. So we might have to find what is their area of interest within this diverse topic as, such a huge topic as math itself.
Thank you.
On similar lines, being a parent of a twice exceptional child, I've been trying a lot of things, there are varied interests. As you said, it keeps going from one to another. Establishing connection is very good. But then, we are in a juncture where in a year, he may have to decide what he wants to pursue. Like going to grade 11 and 12, he has to choose his subjects. Like, how do we guide the child? Because the interests are so diverse, and then he keeps exploring from one to another. It's all started with years back with black hole, and then it went into aero modeling, and then into art. It keeps changing. So how do we kind of navigate them, making the right choices?
There might not be the ideal or the right choices. There would be often mistakes and coming back. However, what I have tried and I've seen other parents doing as well is that exploring each of those course programs, meeting those students who are doing those programs in the first year or so, talking to them, having an idea about what is there in the program. Will all the courses within the program make sense to me? Because you would have in mind certain set of programs, isn't it, for the university?
Yeah.
speaking to those students ahead of time during the break, having an idea about, okay, so this is what happens in, say, for example, okay, astrophysics program. Okay, this is what happens in an astrophysics program. The first year has got these many courses. Is this something that I would like doing or not? Choosing some other program. So when you kind of explore each of those programs and your child gets to meet the students that's already doing the program, it is more insightful for this child to understand, oh, this is what it is. I don't think this is a good idea for me, because out of the 6 courses in the first year, I like only 3 of them. This is not my game of choice. Let me move into it. So giving that opportunity to kind of explore what's happening in each of these courses, the expectation, the assignments, everything matters for them. It is not a matter of just doing the course, right? So I think that really kind of gives them an idea, because then they get a picture of, oh, this is what happens in this program. And these are things that I like to do, and these are things I do not like to do. So maybe I might have to look at a different program. But always see, like you said, he's got multiple, your child has got multiple interests. Bring all those interests together, check all the program options, because you got ideally 1.5 years or more, isn't it?
Yeah.
So check all the options possible, because then only they know what exactly is there in that program.
Okay. Thank you.
Shija, I have a question. Since these kids are either twice or maybe thrice also, because ADHD with the spectrum and then gifted, right? They're aware that, like, say, in my daughter's case, she's aware that she's more intelligent than other kids. And her frustration is her scores, as you said, doesn't show that, right? And as of now, as I said, she doesn't have any definite area where it's a differentiator. Though as a family member, we know that she has lots. So that creates lots of frustration in her. On the other end, if the kid is only gifted, they're able to focus on, what matters. Like, say, my kid can do any subject, but she doesn't do. It doesn't work with her, there's an exam, you should sit and do the rote learning. Or if in an English exam, certain things need to be answered in certain way, but she may not answer, not because she doesn't know, but she doesn't feel it's right, So how to inculcate that kind of thing? Because in India or in any culture, your intelligence or giftedness will be a measure of eventually at the time of it, what you have achieved, right? So how do we tie it together? And especially with the twice exceptionality, it gets even more difficult.
As a parent, we should be their safe space in saying that doesn't matter. Because societal norms say that, yes, that expectation has to be there because you're gifted. If we also, as a parent, keep telling that to our children, it might not be helpful for them. So what can be done for them to feel empowered is to have a project or working on something that they're really passionate about, because schools might not have that option available with them. So if we could kind of help them do that at home or with a mentor or with a center, something that your child is really passionate about, that will be super helpful. Because end of the day, I am not concerned about scoring well in all my courses and subjects. I know that I can do it. I understand everything, but I'm not motivated to kind of do that. But this project is passionate to me. And that is where you can keep building on. Because there's something to look forward. Because as of now, I don't care if I don't score well in all these subjects. And so if we keep telling that you better do it and try to prove it, we are kind of, what do you say? Their engagement, we kind of miss all those good skills as such.
Thank you, Shija. I have a question. Once you figure out or you identify your child is twice exceptional, I just wanted to understand as parents, how can you advocate for support in schools? To what length can you go, to ask? Because, right now my son goes to a mainstream school because he is also very interested in math and science. So we're trying to channelize that. But every other week we get called, or every other month there's a note in the diary saying he's jumping, he's not sitting on his seat, or he's always answering out of turn. And he's like, I know everything they're talking about, so I don't know why everyone's taking so long to do what they're doing. I finish my work in 10 minutes. So just wanted to hear your perspectives on, are there institutions, schools within the country that nurture and engage 2E kids, at least in India? I know that you're not in India, but just wanted to get a sense, and if other parents have any ways that have worked for your 2E kids, that would be a great help.
I might not have the best answer because I'm not in your country, but however, if the teacher is flexible and can give an option of additional work or some other work that is more engaging for him to do in the class, or maybe just outside the classroom or so, that would be something that would be meaningful to him, because to him, it sounds like he knows everything that is being taught and it's a waste of time for him. And he
Yeah.
needs to channel his energy, his thinking, everything into something that matters to him. And that would be something that you might, and if the teacher is willing that you give him the task, I mean, you give the teacher the task, and if the task gets done, that's one way to go about it.
Right.
Then rest, I wish somebody else have something to add for you.
Sure. Thank you. No, I think we're also trying that. We're trying to work with the school. They have a special needs teacher, but I think the challenge that I'm facing as a parent is that the emphasis is too much on the behavioral problem as opposed to the giftedness. So at what point in time do you get the school to say, hey, you know what, I understand that the kid is not being disruptive. The kid is, of course, we understand that you're in a class of 30, but the focus seems to be a lot more on the, even the moderate ADHD behaviors as opposed to the giftedness. So that's also, how do we
That is
advocate for that as
something,
parents?
yeah. So that's something that you might have to advocate because he's 2E. You might have to specify that if you keep working on what he cannot do, he might get even more behavior issues, is what you might see. But what you could see beneficial is that looking at what he can do and probably channelizing all his energy into what he can do, what he's interested in doing. And what he's interested in doing sometimes might not be just what's happening within the classroom. It might be some other activities. Are you okay or are you open to it? If I can give you some suggestions, or I can kind of come up with some ideas for you within the classroom. If you could suggest me the topics, I could suggest what's interesting to him. So then you might not even see these behaviors. How about we try for the next 3 weeks and get back on this?
Correct.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I have a question that, like you said it, you've done some course in Bridges Academy. Like, what is that course about? How did it help you? And like, how can it help us? Like, if I have to do, what is this course? Will it be helpful?
It's so that's a certificate in twice exceptional education. That's what they call the course. This is a 1-year-long course. It is actually the first year for their master's program and the first year for their PhD program as well. Now, when you do the first year program, you kind of go very deep into what the deficit side is, which is all the diagnosis and everything else. On the giftedness aspect, and then what happens when both these come together, and they focus on something called a strength-based, talent-focused model of education. So that is the whole year of the program. Now, how did it help me? I was already into a different program, and I have wanted to incorporate that program into gifted and twice exceptional adults. And that's the reason that I did the program. The benefit to me is to understand there were more options in supporting 2E children as such, which I was not exposed to before. Because I told right at the beginning, I intuitively kept supporting my children. There was no set plan. I felt this is the way I need to do. I need to keep supporting on the strengths, and I went ahead with it. But the certificate for twice exceptional education is a very structured program so that you have a better foundation and everything done. And it's purely online, so it is definitely possible that anybody could do it.
Like giving, then if it's a 1-year-long course, I think it needs lots of time investment.
Yes, it does. There's lots of homework to do as well.
Okay.
There are the 1-year program has got 4 courses, each course having 9 weeks. ending with the 2-week residency. So 4 into 9, so 36 weeks that you would have to kind of do the program. And at the end, there's a 2-week residency also.
Like I was kind of comparing other options like reading material or reading books versus like if we are not professionally in this field, as such a certificate is not going to help. This is just for helping our child, being an advocate for our child.
No, more than that, more than that. They will teach you also how to do the strength assessment as such.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Hello, Shija ma'am. Can I ask a question?
Please go ahead.
Yes. Hi, my name is Mithila. I have a son who is 8 years old. He has a diagnosis of autism and he goes to a mainstream school with a shadow teacher. And my question to you is that is pervasive demand for autonomy, PDA profile, which is very much talked about these days. Is it a characteristic of TWE kids? Like, is it often seen associated with twice exceptional kids?
I wouldn't say it is often seen, but it is seen.
Okay.
It's just like any other diagnosis.
Okay, because
But
that
it
is
makes it challenging, even more challenging.
yes. My son does not have an official PDA like a profile or something, but he very much fits into it. Like he is demand avoidant, and he will always do what he is interested in. He is a self learner. So, and he also has a language difficulties and communication problem, but he's absolutely amazing kinesthetic learner, and he's a very good problem solver. As other mother said, we do not have a diagnosis of giftedness as such for him, but the way he conducts himself seems to be, I feel he falls into a category of 2E. So, yeah, just wanted to know about the PDA profile.
PDA profile makes it even more challenging because many a times we want so much to happen for our children, and because they will be consistently avoiding every other option that we bring around, it might be challenging. So the progress that we would see in a child who doesn't have PDA would be a little more, because with PDA in place, that progress will be like you push forward, they'll push back 10 times. It keeps going back and forth, and it takes a long time. And
Yes,
we
I
need to
agree.
be patient.
Okay,
But
thank you so much.
you will see light at some point, but yeah, hang in there.
No, I do that because I do, and there are some aha moments as well, eureka moments with him. And but then it is very difficult. Do you have any suggestions or tips about how to manage a lot of? I have been doing my own reading, and they say that actually the underlying the deficit which is there is anxiety, and because of which the child wants to control everything. And our kids, I have seen majority of our kids have anxiety, some or the other form of anxiety. So, do you have any suggestions about like how do you manage? How do you suggest?
I manage by with mentors. I have because my daughter is very interested in art. There's an art mentor and there's a math mentor who keeps working, because when it is through their interest by making mistakes, because often there is anxiety and perfectionism in play. So when everything has to be perfect and everything has to come around in the first chance itself, which is impossible. But when the mentor is like constantly working together, and that pressure doesn't come from me as a parent, it makes a whole lot of difference, because she's very motivated to learn that art, and that's the reason she'll push herself as much as she can. But if it comes from me, come on, let's do this artwork or let's do this math together, it is impossible to happen.
Yes,
If
I
your
agree
child
with
has
this.
any specific interest, and if you get somebody to be really patient and just go at her pace, but pushing the child very gently, that'll be the best option to do.
Yes, gymnastics is something, he's a kinesthetic learner and he
Correct.
competes with his previous self. So, and he's quite exceptional in his, you know, acrobatic activities and his physical abilities. He's quite good. So, this is something that I'm, you know, exploring. Let's see what else I can find for him.
You're doing good.
He's just 8. Yeah. Okay,
Doesn't
thank
matter. Age is not a
you so
factor.
much.
Age is never a factor. So don't even think about that.
Yes. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Okay, one more question that I have. So yeah, my son has writing challenges. I think that also is common in this profile. Like, as the psychologists say that any manual repetitive tasks are difficult. He does not like writing. He really like shirks writing. So I don't know. I haven't been able to find much options in school. What are the alternatives here? I have heard like in US and all, they give the devices where user can use like the children can use tablets or other, there are some devices, speech to text or those kind of devices. As such, the support is not available. Or in the board guidelines, we have seen that in 10th exam, in board exams, I have read the guidelines that they do allow laptops or scribe or other options. But personally, I haven't been able to find anyone who's used those options. How those work? Though school has been currently supportive, if our son does not write much, they are fine with it. They don't force him to write. But yeah, what are the options? I say this is a big group of parents, or if any other parent has figured out any options to work with Indian schools, Indian boards, I just keep wondering, like, even if there is an option of laptop, how will like you type math exam in laptop? How will you type science equations or diagrams? Like maybe it's
There are
fine for
options.
language kind
You
of
can.
exams. Yeah, so yeah, I'd like to know
So
more about
even if
that.
you get these options at your grade 10 examination, you need to have enough practice to use it effectively and efficiently for that. So that would be the first step, as early as possible, because the whole pressure of writing is too much. So if we can alleviate those pressure or that stress itself, makes a huge difference to the child. So if the school doesn't support it, at home, at least if you can start using all this, it becomes easy for the child. That doesn't mean that the child keeps starting to do it. If the child can speak to you and then you type, that itself makes it a huge difference. And over the time that the child learns how to do it. Or if it is speech to text using that. Math, there are other app options like Equatio, and there is one more, I can't remember it right now, Mod Math. All these two kind of works for math as well. Oh yeah, there is one more coming up in the messages. So yeah, so there are a number of apps. The whole thing is that there are so many speech to text apps, there are different typing apps, there's so many there. But your child needs to get used to it. It's just like you have an Android phone, you have an iPhone, you don't know how to use it if both of them come together. So the more the practice, the better they get over time. So even if they allow all the Scribe, the apps or everything for grade 10, the earlier you can prep your child, the better they get in using it.
Yeah, exactly.
But in school specifically, I don't know. You might have to ask the others.
Yeah, school is not like kind of forcing him to write. That is the support they are doing. But the point
Okay.
is, I don't know what option will be available in 10th exams so that can start prepping now. Like while now he's in grade 7,
There
like
is one more thing to writing. See, writing involves so much of things. You need to have the thought in your head. You need to have the answers in the head. You need to put them in order, each of these thoughts, and only then the whole idea of writing process comes there. So there's so much to it to just, instead of just writing. It's not copy and write. There's so many aspects that go into the thought process, the thought in order, and then finally putting it out there. So if writing is not the option, is there working it out through slide deck? Even a presentation is actually an essay. If you take in 5 slides and if you put the information on the 5 slides, that makes it an essay too. So there are different options that you need to kind of figure out what works for him at home, because I'm I don't think schools teachers will invest their time to figure out what the child can do in a meaningful way. So that's something that we might have to figure out at home.
Can I answer to Geetika's
Yep. Please
question?
keep posting. I see
Yes.
some comments in the chat that are useful.
Being a special educator
Mm.
by profession,
Okay.
what I have come across is, see, when it comes to scribe, the scribe has to be an year younger than the child. And as she just said, lot of practice is required because you will be seeing the scribe only that day or maybe a couple of days before. So the practice has to happen. More than scribe, I feel practically workable solution is getting an extra hour, extra time. And then instead of writing, long-winded answers, essays, and other things, which is kind of not negotiable when it comes to the language English, the other language, even if you're planning for exemption, you can start mind mapping things like, putting everything in a small web or a flow chart or a timeline. There are so many ways in which we can represent the answer only with phrases and keywords. That's something maybe you can start training your child to answer that way. And when it comes to math, the extra time does help. And we have to be very realistic, not prepare the child for the entire curriculum, pick and choose, like, you get to know the pattern, like, whichever board it is, they give that these are the topics and these many marks from each topic. So we have to pick and choose and start working very strategically. You maybe need not cover everything. There may be certain topics your son is very good at, like, capitalize on that. Certain topics as a parent, I will say, okay, these carry where the weightage is very less and my son is struggling with these things, so I'll go with this. That's one way of looking at it. At least, like, in my experience, that has worked with many children.
Thanks for your inputs.
And if he's comfortable talking and, if your son doesn't have any social anxiety, he's perfectly fine, then scribe is a very good option. There are certain children, they are not very comfortable with, somebody else. Again, it's another aspect that you need to consider. Thank you.
Good to know. Thanks a lot. Thank you all for your comments in the chat also.
Hi, I have a question. Geetika, if you're done, then I'll go ahead.
Please.
Thanks. So hi, I am a parent of a 7-year-old child, and his account is quite different from what I've heard so far. So he is on the spectrum. He also has a diagnosis of childhood apraxia of speech, and he's minimally speaking. So the approach that we're using is to focus on communication, on different kinds of communication. And while that is going on, while he has spent time in a preschool, what we've realized is that general schools are unable to assess him, assess his strengths, and assess where he is exactly. He also has extremely high anxiety, and what we feel is that, being at a mainstream school at this point of time, even with an inclusive setup, would be very difficult for him to learn and grow, because we've seen him do very well with personalized education support from a special educator at home. So while we are on that discovery and, we're trying to focus on different strengths, and at this point of time, it looks like that he is, we might not be able to go on a very traditional education journey, even while homeschooling. So I am looking at primarily focusing on his strengths, and then, kind of building from the bare minimum to higher. Something that we've noticed is that, and this is probably also because he's minimally speaking and, still doesn't communicate as well, is that concepts that we may not have spent time teaching him, he is aware of that. He's able to, do, basic concepts. Like, for example, we haven't really spent time on basic maths, etc., but he's able to, we're able to see in with his teacher that he's able to, after showing him once, he's able to kind of say, okay, this is what the final figure should be. If you're looking at addition, if you're looking at subtraction. And I personally remember at school, we spent several classes learning these concepts. Now, whether he's twice exceptional or not, I'm not aware. So I basically have two questions. For a primarily or a minimally speaking child, how do you, look at assessments at, maybe now or at a later age? Also, I heard about the flex school, so I wanted to know a little bit more. Is that something that I could look at for my child in future?
First and foremost, traditional school has not been built for a neuro minority in any way. It has been designed for the majority of people out there. So what we are trying to do by being inclusive is fitting in these children into whatever capacity that's possible. That's inclusion. Don't ever think that they'll be the best place for our children. No. Education is very different. Schooling is very different. Schools are there for a purpose. They have a name. They have got to go from kindergarten to grade 12. Our children, neurowiring is so different that what we spend probably 1 term and 2 term in learning would be easily done probably in like half a day or 1 day or 2 days. It's just so different because they process information very differently. Some do not like repetition. Some would like repetition. It's totally or their ballgame. Whether they speak, they don't speak, their intelligence is completely different. Now, assessment is a very different thing. Not everybody can assess these kids when they are minimally speaking. Not many of them are able to. There are certain people who are transferring these kind of sheets to kind of doing on a screen and getting the answers. If that option is there with the psychologist, well and good. It works fantastic because they can gather the information through that. Now, minimally speaking, there are the thinking would be way ahead, way ahead. We won't even know unless you keep exposing every single thing.
Yes, that's something
Now,
that we're
there are
seeing.
apps for all sorts of topics. I still remember when my son was, I think, 5, there used to be an app for periodic table. Now, people ask me, why do you give a periodic table at 5 years? I am one person who do not consider age and the topic of interest to go on the same plane. My point was at that point, he's hyperlexic. So he's fascinated with the letters. So let him look at the periodic table and then have fun with it. This was my whole idea to go with it. So yes, hyperlexia is his strength. He's identifying those letters in place. Is he going to remember the reactions? I don't know. But it was fun to see all those reactions on the screen. So there's an app for every topic out there. It's a matter of us searching and getting it. There are n number of math apps and teaching each concept. Even for fractions, it's fascinating. He learned fractions through an app. It is called Slice Fractions. There's Slice Fractions 1, Slice Fractions 2. And even before he doesn't write much. Even before he wrote that fraction as a fraction, he was able to cut it into all these pieces and tell you this is the fraction there. So minimally speaking, do not restrict the child based on the age criteria or any of those topics. Give him as many as possible because the apps are plenty. There are apps like BrainPop, which has got visual at the same time. They write the sentences on the bottom and they're very short videos. And they have got videos on every single topic that's out there. There are more even, so those are for BrainPop, I think BrainPop Junior, and then there's another BrainPop as well. These videos are there as YouTube videos also, but through the app, it is much easier because you have all the topic and all that listed, and it's amazingly done. So it's easier for these kids to kind of see, oh, I've done this topic and I can do this. There are questions also in it if they like to do those multiple choice questions after the session. If they don't want it, leave it. Doesn't matter. Our job is to give as much exposure to these topics. And because it's very visual, it's easy for them to gather the information. Now, fitting them into a school probably at some stage, it happens very differently. Now, homeschooling doesn't mean that you do it based on the traditional concept of English, math, science, social studies. Don't even think about it. See, where in this world do you have English, math, science, social studies being used? Do you use them now? No, we use it all cross-disciplinary, isn't it? So for them, if it matters learning a certain topic, be it. It might incorporate a little bit of math, a little bit of science, a little bit of everything. Doesn't matter. Go with the flow. Because as long as your child is engaged, learning will happen. Doesn't mean it has to go according to the school. Now you asked about Flex School, right? I haven't missed, I guess. Okay, Flex School. Flex School is a twice exceptional school. It has got a smaller class size. However, it depends on the child's interest. So they come up with different topics every year. They kind of put these kids together. Yes, they have been, minimally speaking, students in my son's class as well. They had graphic design or game design when he was like grade 3 or grade 4. And they had a child, but then the mom used to sit with the child. So there are options. Everything is possible, trust me.
Thank you so much. That's very helpful.
Shija, I have a question, especially when it concerns TUI. On one hand, we keep learning about child-led. Allow the child to lead, allow the child to lead. Now, if I allow my son to lead, he just wants to do something all the time. And that's his, wiring. He wants to play, he wants to read, he wants to do this. If I don't give him something to do, I don't engage him productively, he's watching TV, or he's wanting to go play an iPad. So I just want to kind of understand what should be in your experience, what should be the balance to say if he wants to keep doing an activity after the other, is it okay to encourage that? Because that in a way that stimulates him, and then he wants to be more stimulated. So if he's doing 5 different things today, tomorrow he'll want to do 7. So at some point, I'm also thinking, what does it mean for us to just teach him to maybe just sit and just do nothing? But if he does nothing,
Don't do
he
that.
can't do anything. Yeah. So
Don't do that. That's how they're wired. They need all those things happening at the same time. So there are even adults out there who will work on 5 projects at the same time. It doesn't matter to them because they need that cognitive engagement. And certain people say that, oh, it's ADHD, send them for all these physical activities and all that. No, it's not just physical, it's physical and cognitive, whatever your child needs. Certain children need physical activities, let them go for this. Certain it needs cognitive, certain need combination of those. So whatever your child needs, that has to be fed. It's just like how our food is being fed. You need that. It's the same thing. But go with the flow and try to expose as much as possible. If you can get hold of newer activities, bring them on, try collaboratively doing them so that you expose to more activities. So giving them that variety on a constant basis as much as parents can, because I know there's always a limitation to how much parents can do, but whatever is in your scope, but always try collaboratively, see what if they want to do it individually or they want to do it together. Keep going with that.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Hi, can I come in?
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, hi. So my child's profile, I wouldn't take much time, is very much similar to autism spectrum disorder, apraxia of speech, has motor apraxia and visual perception skills, because of which he can't write, he can't talk. So the option left is typing for us. But typing also is difficult because given his motor apraxia,
I lost you.
WAC, that is the school. I'm in Bangalore, by the way. So the school is affiliated to that board, and they say that they can give their answers as multiple choice questions also. They don't have to do the descriptive writing. And if this is recognized, I just wanted to know if any parent here has tried that board before, and will that work out? Because that would be wonderful for my kid. Because for him to actually write down the equations or anything is going to be difficult. We understand that. So that's one question. Second, if we could have a WhatsApp group of the current parents and whatever app anybody has used for, like a periodic table or anything else, if they could just share whatever they have, I think it will be very resourceful. So just 2 things.
So I think Jyoti, we lost you somewhere in between. So I don't think we fully understood the question. We understood the board, but if Shija, you picked up on it, you could go for it. But we lost you
No,
for
I'm
a
just
while in
thinking.
between.
Yeah, I also got lost in between because I couldn't hear.
We couldn't hear the
Jyoti,
first question. Yeah.
yeah.
The first question is, has anybody tried Cognia NWAC accreditation board and given an exam through it? And does it really allow only multiple choice question even at higher levels, at grade 10, grade 12? Is what I wanted to know because I'm in Bangalore. He goes to SAS and the school has accreditation from this board. And they say that all schools all over India, even in Karnataka, are recognized by the board. So if a child can give this exam, then they'll be eligible to apply for any entrance exams, NEET, CET, whatever it is. And they say because my child has this unique profile that he's minimally verbal and will not be able to write papers, the only option left is not even a lot of typing, but just multiple choice question where he can click options and give his answers. So, has any parent really tried it? Practically, does that work? Is what I wanted to know. Second, if we could collaborate all the resources that is available, like somebody said there is an app for periodic table or any of these, if we can have a WhatsApp group and people can share whatever they have found, it would be very useful. We could get everything compiled at one place in one group that we can access now and then whenever we want, whichever parent wants to. So just these two things.
I'm not aware of this curriculum as such. Probably other parents can pull in.
Okay.
But yeah, it's good to
Yeah,
know about
yeah.
this. I have also never heard it. Just now did the search. It shows that NWAC Seri India website. But yeah, it's good to know this. I think we've found lots of resources today in this group. Yes, we should have a group if we can. We have a WhatsApp group in Bangalore, but we can note down all this. Yeah, Shija, if you can also share the apps and resources, maybe
Yeah.
through Spot or whatever later, all the links will be useful.
Hi, Shija, can I ask you a question?
Please, please.
I'm Suja, and my son is 15 years old. He's hyperlexic. He started reading very early. He's gifted musically. So now he went to a mainstream school, for some years, and then we realized it was not suiting him. So we pulled him out. We are, homeschooling him, making music the focus. So he's learning keyboard, piano, he's learning Western vocals, he's learning Hindustani vocals. Now my question to you is, what does twice exceptional, is it only cognitive brilliance? Or would he also fall into that? Because he's really brilliant in music. Or does twice exceptional mean only IQ of 130 and above? Or, is it restricted only to cognitive, intellectual brilliance? You get what I'm saying? What about
I
creative?
get what
When a
you're saying.
child is brilliant, creative, like an artist, somebody who's very good at painting, somebody who's very good at music, you can see the brilliance. So how do they still fall under this or they don't?
Often when they do this, when they give you the twice exceptional, so the psychologist, when you go in the US, this is how they do it. When they say they do all the testing as per that's required through when you do the comprehensive testing, they do all the assessments, they do everything. Now, music, what do you say? Creative, that is artwork or anything of those sort, has not been covered in the conventional assessments.
Right.
However, there are centers who make kids do Lego, spend time in an art room, spend time doing baking, and give a very comprehensive outlook.
Right.
And they often will say that your child aligns with the twice exceptional profile because though this has not been done or these were challenging areas, the child was still capable of doing so and so and so. But not all testing centers have that option. We have been to a testing center where there was a studio, art studio, there was a podcast studio, they had a baking corner, they had a Lego place, they had got, what do you call it, the electronics, those, what do you call it, those boards and all those circuit boards and all those. Yeah. So they had all those options there. So whichever interest the kid has, we go in for that. And they explore the activities around that. So that is a different, we do not have that setup everywhere. So, but that doesn't mean that we limit a twice exceptional individual by saying that you don't fall into this because you don't have these places. Now, when you say music, it doesn't get limited to just the instruments. There's even more to music that you can go in for background music, you go in for creating a documentary. There's so much, but people often very limited kind of idea saying that, oh, just the instruments, just singing, just this. I'm like, no.
In fact, to just share a very interesting anecdote, his teacher, he's got an SLP who's excellent, Anjana Satyabodha. A lot of parents over here would know her. She created posts, autism awareness posts, and she made him the voiceover artist. So, he's the one who's saying everything in the post. So,
Great.
So we are not limiting
so much.
it. We are doing completely strength-based approach. My only question was, I just wanted to, I think you answered saying that, they are looking purely just for the label. Maybe it's purely for the, the intellectual.
But it is a twice exceptional profile. It's just that it is not conventionally taken in because everybody looks just at the academics. There's no IQ testing for arts or music or whatever. They don't do anything for it.
Okay. Thanks, Uta.
So I think we have reached towards the end of the session. If there's any more questions, then we can open to the chat floor. You can send it on the chat, or if not, ma'am, would you say this is the right time for the end of the session?
I'm good as long as your questions are done. I have not been able to go through the chat, so I am not able to do both at the same time. So,
Chija, I still have one question. So I think we talked about the curriculum and academics, right? I don't know. I mean, if you still have time, I am at a junction where I'm getting into school refusal mode, and we are looking at homeschooling or taking up a easier board. Just to figure out, as we said, I'm still not sure where her strength is, where her interest is. And also, how you manage this path. I mean, if others are interested, like say homeschooling or even picking up a board, like say in India, we have open schooling, right? And keep them interested. And, how do you manage, this kind of path? Because it's very unconventional. I mean, I don't know anybody so far who have done it other than, I see on US, many people are doing this.
I started when my son moved to grade 2. And my goal was never to align with what I am seeing as English, math, science, social studies. That was not my ballgame at all, because that is something that we need to think about only probably when he reaches high school or so. Till those many years, I can venture into anything that I want to, anything that he wants to, and that was my goal. I'm 100% sure by now that not all parents are, what do you say, mentally ready for it, because they would say, oh, what will the other people say? But I was fine with it. I didn't care about it. I just went with the flow. So when my child was studying music, they said, what do you mean he's having 3 music lessons at the same time? Is he going to be an instrumentalist? I said, no, he likes music. He's going with the flow. He wanted to learn astronomy. He doesn't want to learn science, by the way. So he wanted to go straight into astronomy. So we ventured everything that's possible in astronomy for it. So my whole point was child-led, yes, but I had the goals in place. I wanted him to achieve certain things, even if it's through the instrument. I focused on breathing skills through an instrument. I focused on his finger movements on the instrument. There are several aspects that I kind of focused on through these interests that he had. So even if I was trying to work on all the interests or all the strengths, I always worked on his challenges at the same time. Now, he could read, he's hyperlexic, but he hardly had any visual imagery in his head. So I had to work on that simultaneously. So for which we had to show explicit images and then try to connect the sentences. So even when I say that I have done a different schooling, my approach was very, very different in kind of looking into each of this area of strengths. So when he had an astronomy mentor, I think when he was around 9, when he was around 9, we got in an astronomy mentor. I said, you talk about astronomy, I don't care, but there are 3 goals that I need to achieve. 1, I need a back and forth conversation happening, not that he gives you a lecture full time. I need you to listen, but at the same time. 2nd, I want him to learn to ask questions, which is very important. And I need you to both do a collaborative research, not that he finds and tell you everything. So even if it's an area of strength, something that he's very passionate about, there were other things that we kept working on. This is how my journey began, and I still continue doing the same thing. Again, end goal is that by high school, he should be able to write an essay. He should be able to kind of create a presentation and speak on a stage. These were the skills. I mean, these are the skills that I'm targeting because these are the skills that he needs for life. I don't want him to kind of work on skills that is to fit into some examination mode or kind of fit it there. That's not my goal at all.
Yeah, I think, how old is your son? I think I joined little late, so I don't know. How old is he?
He's 12 now.
Okay, so mine is 14. I have a complete different path. I moved my daughter I kept her in regular schooling. Right now, she's still in a regular schooling, but now we have a kind of, situation where we're thinking maybe move her to open schooling and see if we can, see her potential, because she's not enjoying. Thanks.
So we have one question which I'm going to share. So how do we get 2-week kids out of video games / watching YouTube videos nonstop?
Question back to you. Why do you think that video games and YouTube is not being productive? Like, aren't they learning anything out of those games or YouTube videos? Because YouTube videos are different kinds. There are some that's very, very content driven. There's so much learning from these. Video games, there's so much learning in the motor movements, the fine motor work. So there are pluses to it. Why do you think they have to pause it?
I think probably the parent wants to emphasize that it's non-stop, that it's continuous. And we see, with the increase in screen time, we see the issues that are happening.
I wouldn't say screen time on the whole as a bad thing. There is good and bad to it. It is to find a balance because you can't run away from screens by any chance. Screens are always going to be next to you. So how can you make it productive? How can that be a collaborative work? How can you be part of that game? You be part of that YouTube? How can you channelize it? I think that is what is more important rather than saying, oh, say no to the screens or take it off. That's not the plan. We have screens all around us. We are here today because we have a screen right in front of us. There's always a purpose to screens. It is a meaningful usage.
Okay, so one last question, Bindya ma'am.
Hi, Shija.
Hi.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for the insightful conversation that you've had. I just wanted to come in and, maybe give my 2 cents regarding some of the questions.
We lost you.
All these ideas in India. I'm sorry, I cannot switch on my camera right now. So I just wanted to speak to that a little bit before we conclude. Again, I think, thanks to Shija, I've also done the course, or I'm currently doing the course that Shija mentioned. And this was my first exposure to twice exceptionality. And I was also curious to understand what is it and also how to use strengths to help children. Because we know that through our work at Insight and also now our work at Spot and all the children that I've worked with in my career, I see that a lot of these children come with a lot of strengths. And we always account for the strengths, but we were never really using the strengths in any way. So what I've taken away from this course is not necessarily like I went in finding out how do I identify a 2E child. But now what I'm thinking is it's not important if I identify somebody as 2E, but I can identify the child's strengths and try and use it to teach them, teach them more skills based on on the strengths that they have, and also to leverage some of the strengths to work on some of the difficulties that they are facing. So this has been a learning that I've had. And one thing I've started doing is what I call strength-based education in stealth mode. So at Insight, we have a lot of teachers who are working with children in schools and at homes, right? And we're in constant touch with these teachers, and they're coming back and telling us how the children they're working with have strengths. But what happens is, like, I think it was Aruna who mentioned that at the end of the day, school expects a certain thing, right? School wants you to write, school wants you to do math, school wants you to give exams, school wants you to behave, be at your best behavior, comply with all the rules of the classroom. These are not things typically that our children are able to do. So what we've realized is there are strengths that our children are having, and we also realized a lot of the behaviors are coming in many cases from boredom. So I slowly started telling my teachers who are working with children in these schools to start doing small strength-based projects with them. And I've done it with a few teachers. Again, it was in stealth mode because we say you just pretend like it's an activity that you're doing to keep the child engaged. The school doesn't really know about it. The parents are informed. Parents know about what is happening, and the teacher probably tells the parents also about the progress. And what we've realized is when we are engaging children in those strengths, they are coming out and doing really well, not only on the project, but also a lot of the other areas that they were having difficulty in. Like, say, for example, we had one of our teachers who worked with a child who was really interested in coming up with a concept for a cafe. And she taught him to use AI to come up with this concept, come up with the brochure and all that. Now he's working on this, and one thing that happened was he was completely engaged. He was so engaged in the project that he would keep telling the teacher, the shadow teacher, that, oh, we have to finish all these other work before we can work on this, right? So let's quickly finish the other work. So he's taking initiative. He used to have a not so great relationship with the children in the classroom. This project excited everybody around him, that some of these kids came and told him, I can do the marketing for this cafe for you. I can do the budgeting for this cafe for you. And before you know, this child is sitting with everybody in the classroom in a group and working on something. And this is a child who used to have these, used to have fights with kids, or, is not able to initiate conversations or sustain conversation or communicate with them effectively. And this is what you're seeing, right? So I have been doing a little bit of this every now and then whenever I found a chance. So what I'm trying to say is it's possible in the school. It may not be possible by a teacher who's attending to 30 children at a time in a classroom to do this. But if there is somebody who's dedicated enough to work with this child, it's possible. We can do it. We're also trying to do this at Spot, by the way. We have after-school programs where we are doing strength-based education for children. And we're also thinking of, starting the micro school, where again, this is what we want to be the focus, right? And like the last, I forget what her name was, Samya. Samya just asked about the pathways and trajectories for these children, right? So for me, as Shrija pointed out, there is a point when children have to get to, a matriculation exam or whatever it is, a 10th or a 12th, in the Indian context at least, right? Until then, I say let the child enjoy learning. Let the child build the love for learning rather than, running behind these goals that are so adult decided. So let the child do the child-led learning. Like if it is a technology that the child engages with more, let's find ways to teach him through technology. If it is art, let's teach him through arts. If it is, very kinesthetic kind of learning, let's teach him through that. So I think we are trying to figure out, like at least I'm trying to figure out right now, how do we fit this into the Indian context? So I think, now we're just working with 1 or 2 children or 3 children at a time, whoever's, trusting us with their children, and we are exploring with the families to see where we can take their child's learning. So I just wanted to, share that before we concluded, that we are trying to find pathways in the Indian system on how to use strength-based education. Thanks, Shrija, again.
So, with that, we can conclude our session. Thank you, everyone, for being here today and for your enthusiastic participation. A very special thanks to Ms. Shrija for her valuable time and for enlightening us with her expertise on supporting neurodivergent and twice exceptional children. So, for all the parents, if you'd like to know more about our Spot Microschool program or any of our services, do feel free to reach out to us. You can also stay connected through our social media channels and website. I've also shared a link, which is a WhatsApp group we have created for the Microschool community. Have a great evening, everyone, and thank you once again for joining us. Take care and stay connected. And thank you, ma'am, once again.
Thank you so much. Thank you.